Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ask the Expert, sponsored by Absolute Roofing here at the NARI Home Improvement Show. There are three words I want you to walk away with this afternoon. Remodeling done right. Remember those three words. I'm going to ask you at the end of the seminar. I don't think it's too hard for you to remember that, but remodeling done right. And if you've been involved in a home improvement project, you know things could go wrong. And you see what happens on TV. There's so many home improvement shows on TV today. It looks so easy. And then when you try to do it, or a friend or a neighbor tries to do it, you know that can turn into a disaster. That's why we have the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. And that's why we have these folks behind me today. We want you to make sure that that project works the best that it can be. And NARI, as I told you, is a national organization. This is the Greater Cleveland chapter that's sponsoring this show. It's the 37th annual home improvement show, the largest in the Midwest. Making a decision on a remodeling project is a very, very important decision. Only full-time remodeling professionals who've been actively involved in the remodeling industry for a minimum of 5 years are eligible for NARI certification. Most candidates take part in a formal study group, about 8 to 12 weeks. This is intense learning, studying in preparation for a very difficult written exam. Business management practices, knowledge of building codes, construction law, safety, math, standards of practice are just a few of the things that the certified process entails. Once awarded the certification, NARI certified remodelers must meet annual recertification requirements. So this is a continuing process involving continuing education credits and participation in industry-related programs. There's a lot that goes into this. NARI Greater Cleveland is proud to present the following certified professionals. Again, we're talking the best in the remodeling industry. On stage left, Betty Narin, cabinet S-top. Next to her is Dan Hurst of Hurst Design Build Remodel. Robert Schwartz of R.B. Schwartz Incorporated. Anthony Costanzo of Costanzo Builders and Remodelers. Zach Maury of Northeastern Residential. And Mr. Chris Camus of Absolute Roofing, again, the sponsor of the Ask the Expert stage. Okay. How to select the right contractor for me? Okay, first question. I know I need a remodel, but I'm not sure how to start. What are some of the things that I should do first before beginning my search? Betty, go ahead.
Well, it's always great if you can connect with a remodeling company that you've been recommended to or searched out. But go with your ideas in hand. If you have things that you've looked at or wanted included in your project, any information that you bring to the table is helpful for a beginning of the project.
Next question. What are some of the things I should do first before beginning my search? Dan.
I think starting off with doing a little online research is helpful. Kind of capture as many ideas as you can. If you have some companies in mind, do yourself a favor and look them up online, check reviews, just get a feel for the type of company you want to work with, because there's a large variety out there, and online is a great resource to kind of get a feel for that.
Next question, do I need an architect, or is a design build remodeler right for the project? Mr. Schwartz, what do you think?
I think you need a good plan. It should be on paper. If you're doing exterior, if you're changing windows, doing load-bearing beams, moving walls, then I would bring in an architect. But a plan, it's got to be on paper. That's where you got to start. But if I'm doing exterior changes, changing windows, the look of the outside, then I'm using an architect.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about perhaps checking for references? And if you could maybe just give us a little more detail on that. What's the best way to do that?
References, Better Business Bureau, I would ask for references from the contractor, clients that they have worked for. So I would recommend that you talk to people that have done projects with your contractor, make sure that they were happy, make sure that the project came out good. But I would always talk to other clients of the contractor.
Okay, Anthony, what questions should I be asking as I interview? Say I have the remodeler comes to my house to look at a certain project. Tell me, what questions should I be asking them?
First, I want to piggyback on what Robert said. NARI's website is an awesome way to find out a lot about the contractors that are in NARI.
What questions should I be asking? Say I invite you, Costanzo Builders, to my home. I'm looking at a kitchen. Tell me, what are the questions I should bring up?
You're going to want to know credentials. You're going to want to know what their experience level is. You're going to know all kinds of different things that they have done. You're on an interview process with that contractor. They have to be right for you. You have to be right for them. So ask any question that you would have any concern of. You know, what brand of cabinets do you install? Do you use subcontractors? If you do use subcontractors, are they licensed subcontractors? Are they electrical, plumbing? Are your carpenters on staff? There's so many questions that you should be asking. Making a list before you actually have that contractor over is the best way.
There's a second part to this. How do I evaluate them once I ask those questions? I put a checklist together, what things were important to me. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Evaluating them is a difficult process. I think you can look at work, you can check references. It's a good way to evaluate that contractor. Definitely, as Dan had mentioned, online reviews is a great way to evaluate who you have there to make sure they're right for you.
Okay, next question. This is for Zach. I hear communication is very important when working with a remodeler. Talk to me about communication. What does it mean? How do we communicate? What questions, concerns should I be asking?
Yeah, absolutely. Communication is super important on any remodeling project, especially if it's a large-scale remodeling project that might last several weeks to several months. You want to ask the contractor how available they are, if they have any systems in place to expedite communications. Several builders up here have software that kind of streamline those communications and organize those communications such that none of those communications can be missed or lost. And then you can also gauge pretty quickly on how your beginning interaction with them is, whether or not they call you back right away, whether or not they respond to your emails within a timely manner, things like that.
When you say right away, what timeline are you looking at?
Within 24 hours or so, I would say, for an initial contact. You know, certainly not days. But we always try for at least 24 hours, a minimum.
A couple of days would
maximum,
raise.
I'm sorry, maximum.
That would raise a red flag then.
Yeah.
Okay, next question for Chris. Chris, what information should be in my remodeler's agreement?
Boy, that's a loaded question. A lot of things that you need in the contract. Now, as a NARI remodeler, we're bound by a certain code of ethics, and part of that is to have all of the pertinent information in the agreement. Probably the number one thing that you're going to want to need or have in there is you have to have an agreed upon price, and you have to also have a way to negotiate any changes that occur and probably will occur on your project. A 3-day right to rescind at the bottom of your contract is the law, and it has to be in there. And if you sign a contract without a 3-day right to rescind, then it could lead to a whole host of issues and problems for the remodeler. But you need to have that in there. It's the law. It's part of the consumer protection law. Obviously, your specifications have to be in there. What you agreed to have done by the professional remodeler, real important as well. There are sample agreements online that you can take a look at from professional companies. I know we put a sample of our agreement online if anybody wants to see it and take a look at it, and you take it from there. Going back to references too that you touched on earlier, we always give out references of customers that we did work for 5 years ago, customers that we did work for a year ago and a customer that we're working on right now. And we'll give out those phone numbers. And we do that so you can see how our work held up and how our, you know, 5 years ago, 1 year ago, and how we're dealing with the customer right now. It's important when you get those references to make sure you call them and speak to them, because that way at least you're getting that useful information as well.
Do you find a lot of the folks that say you gave somebody a reference, do you find a lot of those folks may even go to that home, that individual's home, and talk to the homeowner about the job?
We used to do that, but because of privacy, we don't do that anymore. We won't give out specific information
If the
anymore.
homeowner wants to do it, though.
That could be arranged, absolutely. But as a matter of principle, we'll give out the phone number, you know, of the person and the name. If they want to see a specific address of what we looked at, then we'll arrange that. For my industry roofing, we have a database of all the addresses we've ever done. So if they want to see a color, we'll give them that address, and they can drive by and look at it. But we don't encourage them to knock on the door or anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's important, you mentioned the websites. If you go to NARI Home Show or just Google NARI Greater Cleveland, you will see all the information that you need to know about the remodelers, whether or not they're certified, and their links to their websites and phone numbers. I'm going to start at the end here again with Betty. Betty, do I need to have everything designed or picked out before we agree on a price or start the work? So in other words, there's a lot that goes into that. Do I have to have that all together?
The best policy is to have everything selected before you go to contract, if you can. Generally, it can happen if you have a good designer and someone who's pulling that contract together, whether it's cabinets, countertops, plumbing, electrical, flooring, windows. The ideal situation is that everything picked out, everything defined. You go to contract, materials are ordered, the materials come in, job starts, and you go through a smooth operation of renovation. That's super key. Not everybody does it that way, but if you can find contractors, and most of these that are sitting up here would have that policy, everything's picked out and everything comes in prior to starting that job, so that there's the least amount of hiccups you can have when you go through the renovation project, because renovation is really, it's problem solving from beginning to end. You can have a design on paper, you can have everything picked out, you could have put holes in walls and completed all the investigative things you needed to do before that job started, but lo and behold, something will rear its head and you'll have to address it. However, if you do all the preliminary work that you can, it's very minimal when you have those hiccups. So materials ahead of time, terrific. Yeah.
Let's talk about choices.
Yeah.
You know, it's great that you can pick all these things out, and as you can see here at the show, there's a lot of choices out there.
Right.
You know, in your experience, people need guidance on what to pick. Do you recommend helping with that process?
I would say most of your design build firms will have the ability to help you make selections. You want a finished product that looks like it belongs in your home, that we didn't come in and put an elephant in your kitchen. It should match the rest of your home. So there are, I think there's probably many of you here that do complete remodeling would have the ability to either direct you to sources that could help you pick out their products, or they're able to do it in their own showroom. So in our case, for example, we're able to have a client come into the showroom. We have all the materials in our showroom, so we can pick out your cabinets with your flooring, with your countertop, with your backsplash, with your lighting, with your plumbing, and coordinate that all together so the client can see a complete picture before they go to contract what that's going to look like. So materials and design, not everyone has that capability, but a lot of remodelers do. So it's very helpful. Yeah.
Pass that to Dan. Dan, I'd like to pick up a little bit on that as far as where places you go for the materials, the cabinets, the counters, the plumbing, and all that. I know you're a design build firm. Give us some more guidance on that.
One of the ways we do it is with 3D rendering. That's a big part of our design process. You kind of seen it on HGTV and stuff like that, where you'll see, a 3D rendering of what the project will look like. That is super helpful. It's helpful for our designers as well as the client. It helps communicate what it's going to look like, what it's going to be. So with that, we start there and start to build off of that. A lot of selections can be done online. You can start the investigative process, but there's no substitute for going in a real showroom and seeing and touching and feeling the products. But with a good design and a good designer at your side, you can really help coordinate those, bring them all together, kind of make the best decisions for you, both that fit budget, you know, the qualities in the product you're looking for, the aesthetic look, the style, etc. So, yeah.
Okay, next question. Subcontractors. Robert, is it okay to use subcontractors on a job?
I do. I use subcontractors. I have a licensed plumber, a licensed electrician, heating contractor. I'll bring in a framing contractor. So yes, I have a crew of subcontractors that I use and I'm very familiar with.
So this is people that you have a good relationship. They're very trusted in your operation.
For 30 years, but at the end of the line, the contract is in my name, everything's in my name, so if there's any issues, that falls on me to deal with. I make my guarantee to you that it comes out the way that it's supposed to, and better.
The buck stops with R.B. Schwartz
It
then, right?
does.
Okay,
It does.
good. Okay. Anthony, here's a question for you. What type of insurance should my remodeler have? That's an important issue. You never know what's going to happen on a job.
Absolutely. The big thing to remember here with insurance is just because they say they have insurance doesn't mean they have it. So don't be afraid to ask for a copy of that insurance. Pulling permits, a general contractor cannot go and pull a permit without having the proper insurance in place. So again, the big thing here is just because they say they have insurance, don't take their word for it. Ask for a copy of their insurance.
Okay, we've covered how to select the right contractor. Now, you have the contractor, you started the project, you're in the construction phase. What do you expect during that construction? Zach, building permits. Is it important that we have a building permit on the job?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe building permits are crucial. Not only do you want to, as a contractor, stay in good standing with the building department and the municipalities within which you work, but it also kind of gives the homeowner and the client peace of mind knowing that their contractor has the proper forms of insurance and is doing things and having them inspected to make sure that everything's code compliant and done properly.
So the answer is yes on that one.
The answer is absolutely
a big yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
For Chris here, can I live in my home during the remodel? And this is a two-part question. Will the bathroom, kitchen be out of commission during the entire remodel? I know you're in the roofing business. You know enough about the industry to answer this, though.
Yeah, I'm just a roofer, right?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, so back to the things they were talking about before. With insurance, the certificate of insurance is something that we get, and we can provide a copy of that to you so you know we have insurance. But I've been involved in a lot of cases as an expert witness where they had insurance, but it was a fake certificate. So when you get that certificate, call the insurance company and say, hey, is this true? And it's the same with a permit. Call the building department and make sure that permit is a valid permit. You got to have a building permit on most projects, roofing included, except for a couple of cities. And again, I've seen it where they said they had the permit, but they never had it. And guess what? All the work that was done, it's no longer the city's issue because there was never a permit. So regarding living in your house during a remodeling project, I mean, I've had my kitchen done, and although it was a nightmare living there, I knew the end result was going to be beautiful, and so we put up with it. When the kitchen was done, we set up a temporary kitchen in the dining room, so we're able to do a few things there. When you're doing a whole house remodel, you're not going to want to live in your house, obviously. You know, that would be a little bit difficult. There was a second part of the question?
Yeah, I want to go back to the insurance part, if you don't mind.
Oh.
Because you and I have had conversation over the years, especially when we have a horrible storm and your roof is compromised and people will get an insurance estimate on that roof. The job that they get, you hear a lot of people that are obviously fly-by-night contractors that come in, they do a shoddy job, and then all of a sudden they realize, well, we need to have it done over again, but then the insurance people are going to say, sorry, talk to me about that.
Yeah, you got a couple hours? I mean, it would take that long. There's so many things that happen there, but yeah, We regularly, after a storm and roofs are replaced by insurance companies, we regularly go in and replace the roofs again because the companies that came are out of town and they're gone now and they're not coming back. Unfortunately for the homeowner, the second time around, they're paying for it out of pocket because the insurance is not going to pay for it twice. So we always say, stay local if you can. There's a ton of good local guys. I mean, look at us up on stage here in the NARI organization. They'd be happy to take care of you and help you with your insurance claim. Make sure it's done and done right the first time.
That's why we say remodeling done right.
That's right.
That's right. You know what? We were talking about living in your home during the construction phase. Betty, I want to talk to you a little bit more about that bathroom, kitchen, about that process. If it's out of commission, do you advise the folks to say, hey, you know what? Maybe you want to go down to the hotel down the street or a neighbor's house?
If it's a kitchen situation, I suggest to my clients that you keep handy the items you take in and out of your dishwasher on a daily basis, and you use paper plates and a microwave and a sink that you can have access to somewhere else in the house. You are going to be out of your kitchen for however long that project, time-wise, it needs. So eat out, plan on doing your remodels in the spring when you can cook outside, whatever works for your family. You need to have that space clean and emptied out for the remodeling project. If it's a bathroom, hopefully you have more than one in your house because it's difficult to remodel a bathroom and there's only one. If there is, you just have to have your toilet put in and out every day so that you have access to that item. So you just have to plan for it and know and go into it saying when it's done, it's going to be great. Just get me through it. If you have good contractors, they're going to keep your place as neat and clean as they possibly can during construction and keep the dirt and the dust down as much as they can. It's not foolproof. You need to know that your house will be dusty. Even if they put up plastic and close everything off, it still travels through your home. So just have a good attitude, have a good contractor, start, finish, you'll be good. When it's all done, you'll be good.
Betty, what are some of the things you can do to manage all that dirt and dust and all that? Perhaps.
You know, take pictures off the wall, put sheets over your furniture, cover anything with plastic, take the things out of your kitchen and put them in boxes and put them away. Yeah, just try and be neat and organized, and when you put things back, you'll be okay. Trying to think what else you can do. Plan on eating out. Have your family invite you over for dinner. Try and be out of your house as much as you can. Take your vacation. If you have good contractors, you can leave the area, and when you come back, it's all done. I have many clients that have done that for me. You know, they decide, okay, I'm going to take my 2 weeks vacation, 3 weeks, I'm out of the house. If you can trust the people you're working with, that's always an option. Go out to eat, go to family, use paper, pizza on speed dial, paper plates, paper cups. Take advantage of the paper products that you have available to you. Plan on simple, easy meals during that remodel. Crock pot works good. An electric frying pan works good. Microwave works good in other areas. So plan for it, and when it's done, you'll be super happy.
I'll throw one thing out there, too. It might be wise to get your air ducts cleaned after a remodeling project. I did it last year. We had our kitchen done, and there is a lot of dust.
Right.
A lot of dust, and it goes into your ventilation system. Right. And you want to clean that out, and you'll find a lot of air duct cleaners here at the NARI
Your contractors will, you know, when they're remodeling in a space, they're going to cover those air duct openings, so it's less apt to travel through, but it is a good thing to have your air ducts cleaned afterwards if you haven't done it for a long time. So, yeah.
Let's move on to Dan here. Let's talk about the length of the projects. I know it depends on the scope of the project, but I'm sure you get a lot of people that come in and say, here's my kitchen. You could ballpark it if it's a room addition, depending on the climate outside.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. Do you talk to your homeowners about how long you're probably going to be at that location?
Yeah, we do. You know, the time a project can vary depending on the scope, how extensive it is. If it's just an update where you're removing and replacing in the existing location, it usually goes much faster. If it's a total redesign where you're moving the sink and the appliances and all that, it's usually a more complex remodel that takes more time. But typically, you know, bathrooms can range anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks on up to 8 to 10 weeks, depending on how advanced the remodel is. Kitchen, same thing. I mean, you could do a simple kitchen update in around 4 weeks. It could take as long as 3 months, depending on how intricate the design is and the details. There's a lot of steps that you have to go through when remodeling, and it's almost like you're building a new home. You go through demolition, you go through framing, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, drywall, and you have to get all those various steps inspected properly, quality control checks done, and all those things take time, so you have to move through the proper progression. So trying to rush a remodel is not a good idea. You want to make sure that you've got a contractor that has good control of their schedule. They know when things need to happen when, they don't rush it, they don't cut corners, and you give them the right amount of time they need.
Okay, let's go to Robert here. What should I expect from my remodeler regarding showing up and keeping the schedule? We hear all kinds of stories about, oh, well, I haven't heard from them for 3 weeks. Talk to me about that.
So the one thing I wanted to add from what Dan said is ask for a schedule. You want to see a construction schedule before you start so you can measure how that job is going. Your contractor should be there on time in the morning, 8 o'clock, whatever that agreed time is for you, but it should be on time. And I would want to see someone on that job site every day. You don't want to have someone pulling off for a week, pulling off for 3 days. That's not a good situation to be in. So understand the schedule so you can measure, start on time, quit on time. Betty was talking about surviving the remodel. I want to make sure that that contractor's protecting my floor before they start. I want to see the floors protected, Rams board put down, curtain walls put up, dust control. But yeah, on time, and that job should be worked from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, could you pick up on that? I'd like to hear your perspective, and maybe you could also talk about any tips that you might have as far as surviving that remodel.
Every remodel is different. As Dan mentioned, the scheduling of it, 2 to 4 weeks on a small bathroom, very realistic. Again, on a major remodel in a bathroom, yeah, we've been on projects where it's an 8-10 week project, but it all depends on the products you're picking out. Ideally, sure, everybody likes to have all those products there, but if you got a 12-week lead time on certain products, you're not waiting 12 additional weeks to start your project. You're going to get your contractor should be able to kind of backstep when those products are needed, and that's how they're going to gauge when to start this project, when these products are needed. As far as cleaning, keeping the house clean, yeah, we do everything we possibly can. We're closing off air return ducts, we're closing off heat ducts, we're putting up zip walls. I'm an old-fashioned carpenter. Until they make dustless tools, we cannot make that stop. We do our best to do it. We vacuum up, we clean, we do all of those things, but we're remodeling. It's going to happen. We do our best to control it.
Okay, you talked about tools. We have a couple more questions we're going to open up to you. How much room does the remodeler need to store those tools? Now, you've got a project that's going to take several months. You said a kitchen is about 3 months.
Yeah,
you're pretty much pretty much move in, kind of.
Yeah, you do become part of the family, and that question is answered the same as some of the previous ones, and that's different for every project. If it's a 2 to 3 week quick bathroom remodel, we wouldn't need quite as much space. If we're looking at a several month project where we're doing a large scale kitchen renovation, we may need half your garage. Sometimes the contractor can even bring in like a pod to put certain things and store certain things, depending on the logistics of the driveway and the garage and access to the house and things like that. Yeah, that's.
What if they need extra materials during the day? And another part of this is when they leave the job site, you're not home. Do they lock the house up? That could be a major concern.
There's certain projects with security systems and things like that where we'll actually list out a procedure for whoever's leaving the house, because it may not be myself every day, and it may be a different subcontractor on certain days. So the house should always be kept locked, and anything that is left should normally be locked. Tools should be kept safe so kids can't injure themselves. No live wires hanging out of the ceiling, general things like that. But absolutely, you want to make sure that your contractor is, trusted with your home while you're not there.
workers' comp comes to mind. That's an important issue, isn't
and that's
it?
another thing with the insurance, workers' compensation. If you have W-2 employees, is a big thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is also with the cities. I mean, when you're going and pulling permits, we pull permits on every project, whether it's small, little, big, whatever it is. We pull a permit on every single project. Your workman's comp certificates and all those things, they have to be on record with the city. So again, I mean, the city's a great resource. NARI's website is a great resource. Asking the insurance company, what Chris mentioned earlier about insurance, calling and making sure that the insurance is actually good. You hear horror stories about contractors out there, and unfortunately, that makes every one of us sitting up here look horrible. We're the good guys up here. We're the guys who do the work the right way. We perform it the right way. It's everybody else that makes us look bad. That's why we're up here telling you folks about it.
Remodeling done right, once again. If you could pass it over to Chris. You got a project, you did an estimate on a project. In your case, it would be a roofing project, and something changed during the project. Maybe they found something up there that you didn't expect, you couldn't see. How do we handle a situation like that with a homeowner?
Well, you go to the homeowner and you let them know the bad news. And then after they're done crying and being upset at you, you lay it out. So in our contracts, specifically, we have a change order procedure that we discuss with our clients before we sign the contract. And so any additional costs are generally spelled out up front. If we find something that is unusual that nobody would have known about, we're going to photograph it. So we have a digital photograph of it so we can bring it down, especially on the roof, and show you what it is. Most change orders, they have to be done, but you need to have them documented. You need to make sure that that what is being done is being done at the cost that you agreed to. Change orders are just an everyday occurrence in any type of construction. You know, if I was a Swami and I can, you know, see into the future and see through walls, we wouldn't need that, but that's just not the case. So you're going to have change orders, and they definitely need to be addressed properly.
Do you have a conversation with the homeowner saying, you know what, there could be some things in that roof, in your case, that we didn't see, so kind of be prepared for that? Yeah,
I've been doing it for 31 years, and you know, I've seen just about everything that you could possibly run into on there. And so we will have a discussion with the homeowner to say, hey, there is a possibility that this may occur. Be prepared for it. If it doesn't occur, hey, great. Then you know, at least we discussed it. And you know, what's important is that the project is completed on time, as close to budget as possible, and professionally.
Okay. The next question, how do you handle, we kind of touched on this, I just want to elaborate more because you just never know what's going to happen on a project. A pipe or a wire behind a wall that needs to be moved, maybe a cracked floor joist. Betty, let's talk about that.
Okay, they happen often, and what you do is you evaluate the situation and you come back to your client with what you found and the way it can be handled so that the job can continue. And sometimes it means a cost is incurred, and then you handle that with a change order, and sometimes it's simply something you need to bring to the client's attention. An example would be you have soffits in your kitchen and you want to remove them, and we actually, before we finalized the job, we went into the client's home and we poked a hole in the soffits and we put cameras up there to verify that there's nothing in the soffits we can't take care of. Okay, so we take the soffits down, and lo and behold, there's a spot we did not detect with a camera, and there's a pipe that needs to be moved. Okay, so you figure out a way to move it, you tell the customer how it's going to happen, and you move forward. So remodeling, again, is solving questions and problems the whole way through. Remodelers are accustomed to those issues, and we know how to handle them. We know what to do to take care of them.
It's funny you bring up the soffit because I have a personal story on that.
Okay.
We were remodeling our kitchen. There was a soffit, and we wanted to put like a wine bar area over there. And there were, once again, pipes above there. The wine bar won out on that one.
Right.
I just want to let you know.
Good.
Let's talk to Dan here. I'm sure this doesn't happen too often, but what if the materials that, say, you picked out They change their mind. They want to upgrade. They want something different that's going to be more costly. A situation like that, I'm sure, has come up in your work.
Well, quite often, yeah.
And you allowed for a certain amount of money already.
No, actually, you know, if your specifications are done properly
Yeah.
and everything's agreed to upon, then whatever was specified is what you're installing. Now, if for any reason you change your mind, or let's say that product's discontinued and you need to select a new product, whatever the difference is in cost, you know, that should be done again using a change order policy. Should be properly documented. So, like, we encourage our clients, feel free to change your mind. Feel free to, if you decide, hey, you know, we selected this tile, but we really found something else we just fell in love with, can we change it? Absolutely. Now, what you want to do is timing of that's really important. You know, if you can make decisions and changes before products are ordered or before installation begins, it can help save cost on the actual change of that product. But by all means, I encourage people to, you know, follow your heart in those situations. If you find something that inspires you or you love, feel free to change it.
One more question here, then we're going to open up to the audience. Painting. You have your cabinets installed, say kitchen. Do we paint before they're installed? We paint after? What's the process on that?
Before the cabinets go in, I would like to see the walls primed, everything sealed before the tile backsplash goes in. But the paint goes on last. The painter comes in. He's the guy that's making me look good in every other trade that I've had on the job. He makes it perfect. But no, you can't do a finished coat of paint because it's going to get nicked up. Painter's last.
Mm-hmm. Last part. Okay. Anybody else have anything else to add? I think we covered just about everything here. I'd like to open it up to you. Beth, the lady in the gray here, has a wireless mic. We try to cover as much as possible.
Test.
This is all about asking the experts. Maybe there's something specific to your remodeling project that we didn't cover. This lady here in the blue.
Is it better to go to a company that's with the BBB than not?
BBB or not? You have the mic? Anthony, why don't you pick it up?
BBB is a great source to do your research to find out about the contractors, but there's several sources out there. BBB is just one of them. Again, I'm going to promote NARI here. NARI is a great way to look at it. I mean, you could go online, see who's a member. You can see everybody who's got accreditations that have done, you know, the Certified Remodeler Program or Certified Carpenter Program, whatever the case may be. They're all great sources to look for your research process to find out who you want to go with. They're all great outlets to look into.
When it comes to NARI, too, a lot of the contractors that are part of our organization have been in business for more than 20 years. I think half of them are over 25 years, and that speaks volumes right there.
It's also part of the NARI membership process that they have a good report with the BBB. That's a requirement, and they have to be in business for so many years before they can be a member, and be certified in a city, registered in a city, and carry the proper insurance. That's all part of the membership process. So we basically check the contractors out for you ahead of time.
Anybody with another question? Okay, we'll get to you, sir, in a moment.
Is the NARI organization just up here in Northern Ohio, or is that national?
It's a national organization. This is the Greater Cleveland chapter.
Yeah, 'cause I'm from South Central Kentucky, so I've never heard of it, but I'll look for it.
Well, we're an active chapter. Maybe that could be why. This gentleman over here has a question, Beth.
If a contractor tells you to pull your own permit, should a red flag go up?
Yes. Period.
Is there a reason, or is there a time when you would pull your own permit? Say you're just building a shed in the back or a barn. You should still have the contractor pull a permit.
If you're going to perform the work, you pull the permit. If I'm performing the work or anybody else up here, pull the permit. Permits are not a bad thing. If a contractor tells you, well, you know, get your own permit and we'll just do the work, it's our license, it's our reputation on the line. So I'm pulling my own permits. Like I said, we pull permits for everything we do.
Any more questions? Oh, up here.
We're going to put in countertops in our kitchen. We have the old Formica. We want to get all that replaced. what should we think about? What should we look for when we get people to bid on it? And are there any special precautions, any advice you can give us on that project?
So it's all about countertops?
One, I would look for a material that I like. If I had young kids in the house, then maybe I wouldn't go with the marble. I'd go with maybe something more durable, quartz, a solid surface. Ultimately, it's something that you like. But if I had kids, I would not go with something soft. Yeah, if you like red wine, stay away from that, from the marble. There's a lot of choices. Quartz are very popular right now. So shop around and look what you like. So like quartz, like stone, there are different price points that you can be in. You can get into an entry level. They have a medium range stone or a medium range quartz, and then they have the higher level product. So yes, there are differences. The manufacturers, they are all good products, I'm going to say.
I think you need to have a budget in mind too, to see, and how long you plan to stay in your home too. That's another fact to consider. Anybody else? We have a gentleman in the back here.
Perhaps more of a specific question. Doing a bathroom remodel, small little bathroom, but I know behind this insert of the shower, it's not going to be pretty back there. At what point do you start thinking mold remediation? Do I wait for you guys to tear it out and say, oh my, or do I start looking for things now? At what point do you want someone else to tear it out and you not to tear it out?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, if usually there's signs that you might have a moisture problem where there's mold, so you want to look for those where the drywall is deteriorating, broken down. You can kind of see signs of mold buildup in the areas where that moisture holds, usually in the corners or the cracks. If you do notice that, there's a good chance you got something back there. Now, not all mold is really bad mold. Some mold is just mold, and with proper cleaning, it can go away. Best way to get rid of mold is to remove the product that it's feeding on, which is usually wood. So if there's moldy wood, you remove that wood, and you're in good shape. But there's nothing wrong with just opening that up, taking care of the demolition, and seeing what you have. Now, if you think there's mold there, I would recommend having a contractor do that for you, because as a homeowner, there are some risks involved if you have asthma and things like that. So I would use caution if you wanted to take that on yourself, but that would be my recommendation. Typically in that situation, as a contractor, we're going to remove it and then assess it and deal with the situation at that moment through a change order. So if you think that's something you might have coming down, that's something to prepare yourself as you're doing the project.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
We have a lady over here.
I have a question about how to best determine, when you talked about what your budget is, we're having kind of a hard time figuring out what a budget should be. Are there any rules of thumb for a certain price of a home, and what percentage should you look to spend on a kitchen remodel or a bath remodel? Because we kind of look at the cost as to what the value is to us, and it's hard to work with a contractor that says, what's your budget? Well, it depends on what we can get for our budget, so we're maybe hard to work with. I don't know if that makes sense, or you have anything to say about that?
Let's see, yeah, budget's a tough thing, but it does often, for us, like, it does start with budget. We do want to talk about budget, but what does a kitchen remodel typically cost? A good contractor should be able to give you some idea with a little bit of input from you, what the things you want to do with your kitchen, like what type of countertops you want, what you want to do with your flooring. With that information, they should be able to give you a range or some idea with what that project may cost. And if that seems feasible to you, then a lot of times the best thing you can do is enter into a design where you really design that kitchen, figure out everything you're doing to it, figure out the layout, the selection, so you can come up with a real cost for it. The thing about what you invest in your home, though, you know, getting that money back, it's not always the case. You know, like the Remodeling Magazine, they put out a cost versus value report every year with Harvard University, and it basically runs statistics on what remodeling projects give you a return on your investment in the market we're in. And in Cleveland, kitchen remodeling is actually pretty good. You can get a 60 to 70% return on your kitchen remodel investment. Now, that's not for every home in every neighborhood. It depends on the location you're in, the age of your home. Are you the most expensive home on the street, or are you in the middle or down near the bottom? And do you have room to add value to that? So when it comes down to remodeling, a lot of times what we say is, what do you want to do for your family? You know, what is it that inspires you? What is the value and the quality of life that you're going to gain from that kitchen project? And and it's hard to put a number on that, because you're not going to get it all back, but you know, the home's value may not increase in fold for what you're investing in it, but the joy that it brings you, you know, what's the price tag on that? So, yeah. I hope I answered the question. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you did. I think you touched a lot of it on there. That cost value report is available online, and I'm very familiar with what he's talking about. If you want to get the most return on your remodeling dollar, it's the exterior. You heard the old line, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And if you're selling your house, if you don't like what you're seeing outside, chances are you're not going to go in. And like an entry door, if you have a garage door on the front, anything in the front of that house, you're going to get a lot of return. In some cases, 80, 90% return on your remodeling dollar. But Dan is absolutely right. Kitchens are usually around 60, 65%. But it's what you enjoy in that home. Because the remodeling project, in my case, that kitchen, I just absolutely love it because I like to cook. And now I have the opportunity and everything is at my fingertips. But thanks, that is a good question. Anybody else?
Hey, Flash, can I add to that, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, budget or your investment range is key to any project. And I have clients that come into our showroom all the time, and they'll say to me, I want to remodel my kitchen, and I want to take out a wall, and I want to replace a window, I want to take out my soffits, I want all new appliances, I want granite countertops or engineered stone, I want new flooring, I want new appliances, new plumbing. They want it all, okay? Which is fine. We can give it to you all. But then you talk about what could this possibly cost, okay? Good remodelers, like Dan said, have an idea. If you have an average sized kitchen, they're probably going to tell you you're not going to be able to spend less than $35,000 just to do an average kitchen and not removing walls and windows and things like that, just average. And it all depends on the products that you put in that space that drives that price. So budget and investment has to be a conversation that you have with your contractor the very first time you meet them. Because if someone comes in and they say, I want all these things, and you give them this glorious design, and then after the fact, you give them a price of $70,000, they fall on the floor, and they go out of your showroom unhappy because they can't afford what you want. So that conversation is absolutely crucial for you having a good experience with your contractor so that they know, I have a house that costs $300,000, has a value of $300,000. I only want to put into that $20,000 for a kitchen remodel. Okay, I'm thinking I cannot remodel your kitchen for $20,000. But could I give you new countertops and new hardware and maybe a new appliance? Yes. So talking about an investment range for you is so important for us to deliver what we can within that budgetary number you might have. And people don't have an idea where to begin. They have no idea that a kitchen may cost $30,000 or $50,000 or $70,000. But once I put out a number and I'll say, well, from what you told me, I could probably do it for around 50, and they say, well, we're not going to spend more than 30. With 50, I could sell my home and buy a new one. So have that conversation in the beginning. It will help the process. If we know you want to spend $25,000 on a kitchen, then we know what level of material you can use to get close to that. So it's a process. It can be worked through. Everybody has a budget. We can work with any budget. Any of these gentlemen can work with any budget. It's just the materials that drive that price. All right, we all know that a Chevy will get you to the IX Center, and so will a Cadillac. So which car do you want to drive to get there?
Good answer. We have another question here.
So you're talking remodel, but what about like a reface, cabinetry, countertops, things like that? Are you able to reface the countertops, like, paint them or clean them up like that, versus an actual, tear out and redo?
We'll let the roofer talk about this. Come on, I know a lot about countertops. What the heck? The answer is, for me, yes.
You can, and what you will more than likely find out is that refacing cabinets, at the cost of that, you may be better off just looking at new products. What you're not getting when you reface a kitchen is new drawer glides. Some companies do upgrade your drawer glides, but the bones are still there. So you're not able to improve upon the design at all. There are a lot of things that you can do improving upon the design that a refacing can't get you. So those are things that you want to consider. Countertops, it's a great investment, but you're putting new countertops on top of an old product. So you're not improving upon the design, or you're not giving yourself the opportunity to improve upon the design if that's something that you wanted to consider.
Anthony made some great points. I would just add that refacing is a viable option in a case where you do not want to change your floor plan and the insides or the guts of your cabinets are good. However, I've done many refacing jobs in large homes and in large kitchens and small kitchens, and they can turn out really phenomenal. You can make some upgrades like adding rollouts or changing out or adding amenities to cabinets. So the basis is that your guts have to be good and you want to keep the same footprint for the most part. Doesn't mean we can't add a cabinet, we can't add an island, but if it's done properly, it does save in the area of removing everything and putting everything back, especially if you already have existing granite countertops and you want to keep them. Sometimes refacing is an option for you. So it can be done very nicely. It's not always inexpensive, okay, but you do save time and you can have some savings. So it's an option.
Okay, there's plenty of refacing companies here at the show.
Any good remodeling company can do refacing too.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're going to do one more question here because I'm going to have to wrap this up. But I'll tell you, you asked some very, very good questions, important questions to ask a remodeler. Ma'am, go ahead.
If you are doing some remodeling in a kitchen with the idea of upgrading your home to sell, your countertops, you have so many options. You have granite, obviously Formica, you've got quartz and all these other options. Which one is the one that's going to grab a potential buyer?
I'm going to let Betty answer this one.
I have had this question asked me so many times. It's a great question. I had it at least 2 times this week. My first response is, before you make any renovations to your home, not that I don't want to sell you something, but first consult with a real estate agent. Because you may believe that your countertop is the thing that needs to be replaced, and they may tell you your front door or your roof needs to be replaced. So before you invest in spending thousands of dollars changing out your countertops or painting your cabinets, please consult with a real estate agent in your area that knows your home, and she's going to give you the best advice. And then if she says countertops or flooring or whatever it might be, then you go back and you seek us out and we'll make that happen for you.
Well, actually, my daughter is the real estate agent.
Okay.
And it's my son who wants to sell the home.
Okay.
So that's why I just thought I'd get some more information.
And what was her advice?
I don't know yet. I haven't talked to him.
Okay.
Definitely new countertops. I mean, she said.
If she says that, then
let's go back to the question then, and along the same lines, stainless steel sinks versus say a granite sink.
Well, if you're making the change to sell your home, you want to use updated product but entry level, you know. So you're not going to you're not going to purchase the most expensive granite or the most expensive sink. You're trying to clean it up to make it look good and new and refreshed. And you can always take an idea off of homes that are being built by Pulte or Orion Home. If you go into those homes, they're giving stainless steel sinks, simple faucet, clean countertops. So don't go high end, just make it new.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up on that note. Betty, Dan, Robert, Anthony, Zach, Chris Camus, sponsor of the Ask the Expert stage here at the NARI Home Improvement Show. We appreciate your participation. Thank you so much. We hope you find what you're looking for. We hope we answered your questions here at the Home Improvement Show. We're going to be doing this again later in the day at 6 o'clock. You might be gone by then, but tell your neighbors, tell your friends. It's all happening at the NARI Home Improvement Show. And what were the 3 words I said? Remodeling done right. Remember that. Thank you.